I'd like to call the Public Works and Protection Committee meeting on Tuesday, October 7th. Roll call, please.
Gary Paul,
Here.
Jay Krieger,
Here.
Kelly Service,
Here.
John Burnett,
Here.
Joanne's excused.
Okay, roll call is done. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Action on the agenda. Any corrections or additions?
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Action on the minutes from September 2nd, 2025. Any corrections or additions there?
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Items. Item A, consider, discuss, act on appeal of denial operator's license, Matthew S. Plautz. Chief, or excuse me, Chris, I believe you're on it. Let me get up to speed here. All right, Chris, you're on.
Thank you. So in your packet is the denial letter, the original application, and a letter from Matthew Plautz regarding the denial of his application. Public safety denied due to guideline 3 and guideline 5, and I'm going to just hand it over to the chief to talk about those.
Okay, Chief, you're on.
Thank you. So that is correct. Mr. Plautz has been denied due to the guidelines. The first guideline violation is to sell alcohol to an underage person, which he was cited for back in 2024, August 27 of 2024. He entered a no contest plea and was found guilty 1/16 of 2025. With that, he also has guideline number 5, truthfully and completely not filling out his application. There was nothing listed under his criminal history. In his letter, he writes that he claims he was not the person that actually sold to the minor, and that he had been in the gas station convenience store. This is his first citation for anything. With that, I would beg the difference on the information I received from the Brown County Sheriff's Department. Mr. Plautz was actually cited for, of which he admitted to purchasing twisted tea for juveniles at the Superior Discount Liquor Store. Didn't specify which liquor store, of course, but he admitted that the juveniles were with him in a vehicle when he had purchased this alcohol for him. So based on this, these are the facts presented in front of you for this denial.
Chief, quick question, is there some of this within the last 2 years, I see?
And that is correct, yes. This,
Okay.
again, this offense occurred back in August of 24, and a follow-up was actually done on 10/29 by Brown County Sheriff's Department in regards to a different incident that he was involved in with some minors. And eventually, again, the final statement from the deputy sheriff was that information just explained to you regarding purchasing alcohol for minors. So unfortunately, the fact that he says he had nothing to do with selling alcohol to minors, I'm not sure where he's discussing that, but that maybe he'd like to discuss that with you. But that's not what this is all about.
All right, I'll make a motion to open the floor so that he can come forward and share his information with us.
Okay,
Second.
first and a second to open the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Would you like to come up and state your claim here? Give us your name and address where you live for the records, please.
It's Matthew Plautz, 527 Clover Lane, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54301.
Okay, you want to tell us your proposal here for thinking you have an alcohol license?
Well, I understand. The reason why I assumed when he said it was selling to a minor, I didn't understand when it was on the, thing that they gave me. I thought that, because I didn't physically sell to a minor or whatever, I understand.
Didn't they ask for all your information on past, and you didn't think that
I
it
didn't
shouldn't be on there?
realize that considered Howard, Green Bay, or Howard and Ashwaubenon, I figured every municipality was different. That was my fault for not putting it on there. I assumed since it was Ashwaubenon, it was all separate entity and stuff like that. But that was my own fault for not putting it on there. And like I said, I've been in the business for 25 years, and it was the worst thing, with this coming up is ever done in my life. And I'm just trying to work to get back to normal. And I didn't, when the thing happened like that, it wasn't in my mind that what I did and stuff like that is because I went and picked them up, and that's when everything happened. And that's when I told them it was the Twisted Tea or whatever they asked, and yeah, I did buy it for them and stuff like that, and and it was my own stupidity fault for doing it, and I'm paying for it now.
Yeah, and we have strict guidelines here in Ashwaubenon and try to really hold to them and that. And we, as the village board, which that will be the next meeting in a couple of weeks, and this board here, we oversee that. And these rules have been established by us with the help of public safety and the chief there, and he scrutinizes them. So in this particular case, yeah, you made a mistake. There are, after a number of years, and Chris, can you correct me, how many years do we have to wait until, is it two years? 2 years from the conviction date, is that correct, chief? That's correct. Okay. Then you could apply again.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Did you have any other information you want to share with us?
Just that, where I'm working now, they have everything pops up and stuff like that, the register, and I've done all that and everything, and I'm just trying to better myself to get, and improve myself.
All good
Never let
stuff.
this happen again.
All good stuff. Continue that direction. With that, I'll make a motion to close the floor.
Second.
First and second, close floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay,
I will make the motion to uphold a denial.
okay, I got a first to uphold the denial, do I get a second?
I'll second it.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Like Jay said, the 28th is the village board. You can't appear and give your thought there. But like we said, you got 2 years and we're not going to budge from that. So
All right.
Yeah, just the immediacy just makes it tough for us to do that, especially with all the work the public
Gotcha.
safety puts into it.
Yep, gotcha. I understand.
And we applaud that you're looking to get, better yourself and move on from this, but it's just too close.
Gotcha.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item B, consider discuss act on Class B/Class B liquor license request for Boomerang Stadium Holding LLC doing business as the Bassball cage. Who do we have on now?
Baseball cage.
Chris is on that one.
Item B. Okay, Chris, you're again.
Thank you. Bassball Cages is requesting approval of a Class B beer, Class B liquor license at 2343 Holmgren Way. If the village board considers the batting cages to be recreational premises under the exceptions in state statute 125.32 sub 3M, they would qualify for a Class B license, which would also allow them to qualify for a Class B liquor license. That would be part of our quota. Okay, so we have one right now. So if you consider this to be a recreational premise, you could do the Class B beer and a Class C wine instead. And all their paperwork and fees have been paid.
All paperwork's up to date, Chris, you said?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right,
I think I'd like to make a motion to open the floor so that they could come forward and talk about what their plans are for the facility.
Second.
okay, I got a first and a second, open the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed, motion carried. Would you fellows like to come up and state your name and an address so we know where you're from?
While they're coming up here, Chris, so is recreational premise an exception that does not require them to have so much of their revenue in food and, all the other stuff that a regular license would?
Right, the exception, it's referring to like, say you went to a beauty salon. They can't give you a glass of wine because it's a different business. But this is one of the exceptions. They have batting cages, but the exception is they can get alcohol. Does
Okay.
that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm John Fonta, 1301 Orlando Drive in Ashwaubenon.
Jace Ballman. I just moved here, so 4955 Founders Terrace, apartment 124, Hobart, Wisconsin.
Okay.
I oversee the rockers and the baseball cages is fun play on the bass guitar with our rockers logo, and that's kind of why it's baseball. On that, just to clear that up. Jace is going to be the new GM there. We're planning to open in November of this year. So there's going to be a lounge. Obviously, we're not going to allow alcohol in the batting lanes or anything like that, but there's going to be a family lounge in this facility that we'd like to have canned product, whether it's wine or cocktails in like a cooler you can purchase to hang out in the lounge. There's also going to be a large conference room / catering area that we'd like to do other events there if we have birthday parties or just on-site caterings and stuff like that don't necessarily involve being in the cages with that. That's kind of what the premise would be here.
so it is kind of what group are you looking for? Are you looking for the younger kids, little leaguers to do this? What's the intent of the the cages?
The
to start
facility is an all ages cages batting facility. There's 6 full lanes, and then there's
Okay.
4 shorter lanes with pitching machines that are like kind of automatic.
Okay. But your main premise is going to be youth, I'm guessing, correct?
It's all over the board.
Okay. Because I'm going to state right off the top, John, is that I've never been in favor of mixing youth athletics with alcohol. That's just never. That's part of the reason at Ashwaubenon we have never sold alcohol. It's been something that I was against. Now that somewhere in the future maybe somebody would, but I just never. I have seen that in other places, and it's never been a good thing. Now, one question I would have, you're talking about this lounge area. Is that going to be completely separate from the cage area? I haven't seen.
Yeah, it's a
I don't
separate.
recall your
It's
layout.
a separate room as well as the conference room there. So
Okay.
2 separate locations, and the beverages would be secluded to those locations. Be kind of, if you're looking at a different front with a facility, it'd be no different than if we were going to run a Little League tournament at Capital Credit Union Park and allow alcohol sales for parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
What capacity do you see this lounge meeting room to be used publicly for you? I mean, is that going to be your bigger part, or is the baseball thing, you're going to be your bigger part of the
The
project?
batting facility takes up a majority of it. This is kind of a side, kind of a conference room lounge area type deal in the one room, and then the larger space is more of a catering area. It's next to Epic Event Center, so the thought would be, another reason for getting this would be to have bands that come in there, be able to do caterings that could involve alcohol out of that side room.
So in other words, you're looking at using the Epic with the baseball program?
It could be an on-site catering that the baseball cages are closed and we open this large conference room area and feed 50, 60 people out of there.
Have you thought about restricting the alcohol to not come out into the baseball cage area?
We have, I think that'd be part of it. I don't see anywhere, there's basically a concrete floor that goes in between all the cages, and then there's turf. I don't think we foresee any alcohol being out in that area.
I don't have a problem with, I view it more like the axe throwing place, and they have canned alcoholic beverages, and you can police it pretty easily. I'm not as worried about that. What I'm worried about is I don't want to use our last full liquor license to a place that's gonna sell canned old fashions out of a cooler, when we could save it for somebody who's gonna craft actual, high-end cocktails or something like that. I mean, I'd be willing to say, maybe the beer and wine, try that for them and let them sell everything out of cans and in their cooler space or whatever, but I'm a no on the full liquor license.
Yeah, I agree.
I also would like to see restrictions so that it would be locked, not so much locked off, but at least posted, that you don't have parents dropping their kids off to do batting sessions, and they're gonna go in there and grab beers, and then they're gonna go out there and watch them. You got a completely different situation with the Rockers, because of the age groups, things like that. And I get they bring kids there. And I know you have youth tournaments, things like that, but you kind of get grandfathered in for some of that stuff too. But if you could be restricting it and have it posted that no alcoholic beverages out into that cage area where the youth are gonna be out there doing things, okay, then, maybe I would accept that. But if it's gonna be allowed that they can have alcoholic beverages when the youth are out there and that, I will not go after that.
It would be restricted to the rooms,
Okay.
the 2 rooms that were mentioned.
We got a baseball camp right down the road in Lawrence, and I guess they don't have liquor there at all, according to Jay. I haven't been in the place.
But in their defense, they're talking about using this facility different than what ISA is using their facility as well.
Well, it kind of conflicting in my thoughts, because you got the Epic right next door you can use whenever you want if there's nothing going on there.
2 separate facilities and 2 separate staffs that are there.
Okay. I agree with no alcohol in the cage area, and I would not go for a liquor license. We've got one left, and it's not gonna go to somebody that is not a large item user for your business. So it's up to you what you wanna do, but that's my opinion.
So I think I'll make a motion to approve a class,
Are you gonna close the floor first?
oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Oh.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Anything else you guys want to add before I make a motion? Okay. I'll make a motion to close the floor.
First
Second?
and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried to close the floor. Okay, we need a motion now.
Thank you, Terry. I'll make a motion to give them the Class B beer, Class C wine. Chris, do you need to give us any more info?
Yeah, we do. So a couple quick things, and Chris can certainly
Okay, I'll hold my motion.
combine this, but just real quickly, so as it relates to the license and the concerns that you had described during the conversation about posted areas where alcohol would be allowed, based on the site plan that was included in the packet, the 2 areas that they've identified, the lounge and then there's a conference room, they're not immediately adjacent to each other within the site plan. So there is a hall or a corridor that connects the 2 areas. If alcohol were to be allowed in either of those 2 rooms, you would theoretically have to create the premise where you'd be able to take your alcohol, let's say it's being sold or distributed in the lounge, and carry it into the conference room or vice versa. So the premise would need to incorporate the hall and the corridors that are around the cages in order for that alcohol to move between the 2 rooms. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah.
And then the other aspect to it is related to the definition of a recreational facility. If this were to be converted or used as an auxiliary site for like concerts and things like that, then we may lose that recreational facility definition. So I would just want to make sure that everyone is clear that this would be just for batting cages only to maintain that recreational facility definition.
Okay. All right. It'd probably be a good idea, John and Jace, when, for the village board meeting, come with a little more information as to how you see this lounge and this working going forward. But I'll make a motion to grant them a Class B beer and Class C wine license with the premise that there would be signage and it would only be allowed not in the batting cage area. That way it can cover the hall and things like that.
So-
Second.
All right, we got a first and a second. Any questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. A question I have for you, Joel, with what you said between the two rooms in the hallway, how are we going to take care of that?
That's why I said to not allow alcohol in the batting
Batting
cage area.
cage to specify,
So then it can be, in that hallway or whatever, but it still has to be,
move from room to room. That allows them to move from room to room.
right?
I think, yeah, what we'd ask, John, and I apologize, I missed your first name.
Jace.
Jace? What we'd ask for them to do as part of the submittal for village board is to identify on their site plan the actual premise location. So typically it would be outlined as to where alcohol would be available. That way you can visually see as part of the application that area and that connects the two rooms between the lounge and the conference room. Because there will need to be a pathway that allows people to go between the two rooms, which will be adjacent to the batting cages.
Okay.
It won't be inside the batting cages, but it'd be adjacent to that. Right.
Okay. So you guys can kind of chew on that in the next couple of weeks and, or maybe even another wall can appear. So,
Okay. Understandable. Okay, item C, consider, discuss, act on ordinance 010-3-25, creating chapter 11 nuisance and environmental. Article 5, camping prohibited on village property. Joel, you're on this one.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Administration has prepared an ordinance for your consideration, which would ultimately prohibit camping or habitation on village-owned property. The ordinance is intended to help maintain public health, safety, and accessibility, not only in our parks, but in other public spaces, while ensuring that these areas remain clean and available for community use. We've had some recent instances of residents or constituents calling and providing concerns about individuals camping or habitating areas, not only in parks, but in other public spaces like in public utility properties like lift stations, pump houses, water towers, also conservancy areas, wooded areas that are owned by the village or are in public use, and in other public right-of-ways like the corridor along Interstate 41 that runs through the village of Ashwaubenon. This particular ordinance applies to all village property, including parks, those right-of-ways, parking lots, and other public lands, and prohibits camping or other use of vehicles, tents, or other structures for habitation on these properties. The regulation does not affect camping in areas specifically designated by the village. As an example, Ashwaubenon does have a scout camp area that has established rules that have been formulated by the park board. It wouldn't prohibit parking in those areas so long as they're meeting the requirements that the park board has established. So the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and other scouting groups do use that campground area. They have to get a permit, they have to check out the area, it has to go through that formal process of approval. Those areas would not be affected by this code. With the provisions of this code, the village may remove individuals and their camping materials from that village property, and violations are certainly subject to penalties under section 113 of our Ashwaubenon Municipal Code, which is just the general violation chapter. Fines could range anywhere from $1 to $5,000 on that, under that general provision. The purpose of crafting such an ordinance is focused on protecting those public spaces, ensuring that they can be safely enjoyed by residents and visitors to our community, in particular in those parkland areas. Certainly enforcement would be handled with sensitivity. Really what we're looking to do is just have people not habitate those areas, move on. Ultimately, if they are individuals that are unsheltered or homeless, providing them with information on resources that would be available to them to support their housing needs. We're not necessarily looking to actively enforce by citation, but again, just getting people the appropriate resources so that they can find a better, safer, more appropriate place to house themselves for, whether it be one night or a series of nights collectively. So with that, Chief and I and our attorney have been working towards crafting this ordinance. So if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer those questions.
Who at the village would we direct people to because I walk all over the village every day, and I run into these people, and I don't know who to refer them to in Ashwaubenon.
So for us, from a standpoint of getting them to leave an area, obviously that's public safety. So public safety would be contacted, an officer would come. If they're obviously in an area that's public property under this code, we would ask them to just leave that area. If it's private property, then it comes down to a matter of trespassing and things of that nature. So this does not affect private property. We can't necessarily ask somebody to leave private property directly unless they're being requested by the property owner to do so. With that being said, there's a number of resources. There's a Brown County Housing and Homeless Coalition that combines and gathers resource information that we can provide. So public safety is equipped with that information, and it's provided to them about sheltering locations and other resources. If we get information from individuals, can also provide their information to providers such as, these shelters or some of these other nonprofit providers so that they can get resources to them. Maybe they can't get to downtown where some of the shelters are. Some of these providers can come to them and get them some of the resources as well. We do see a pretty substantial number of individuals that may not be camping in the traditional sense of camping in a tent, but are camping out of a car and things of that nature. There are resources within the Green Bay area and Brown County for these kind of parking lots, if you will, for individuals to camp at. Those are much more secure and appropriate areas for individuals that are struggling to find housing or shelter because they're secured, they're staffed, they have resources to support them at that point in time, whereas in a park, they may not have that same level of security and resources.
With all that said, Joel, we do have an ordinance that not allowing camping at all in our village. Am I correct?
So we do not allow individuals to use an RV or a trailer camper to camp in. That particular ordinance is related to the use of those devices on private property. That would not necessarily relate specifically to this instance because this is specifically addressing public property. We have had instances and circumstances where RVs, trailer campers, other type of camping devices are being used on public property. Again, as I mentioned, we're seeing it predominantly in our public parks and in right-of-way areas that are wooded or secluded from kind of public view.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to recommend the adoption of ordinance 010-3-25, creating Chapter 11 Nuisances and Environment, Article 5, camping prohibited on village property of the Ashwaubenon Municipal Code.
Okay,
I'll second it.
first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that ends that. Items for next agenda, contact staff if you got anything. Other than that, I'll obtain a motion to adjourn if possible.
Move to adjourn.
Well, you
Second.
First and a second to adjourn, all in favor.
Aye.
Thank you very much.